Hi, this is Jaya. Now we shall see the summary of George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. You know that Pygmalion is one of the most famous dramas of Bernard Shaw. The drama begins by showing a rainy evening where many people gather under the portico of St. Paul's Church for protection. And this place is in London's Covent Garden. And among those people, three main people we should note. They are Mrs. Ironford Hill and a daughter Clara and her son Freddie. Now because of the rain they want to catch a cab, so they are sending Freddie to go and catch a cab. And when he is leaving, he dashes on a girl who is selling flowers. And in fact, the flowers fall from her basket and many of the flowers get spoiled, and she starts shouting at him in a very low language. And as she is shouting at him, she mentions his name as Freddie. And Mrs. Ironford Hill is surprised, like how such a low low creature can know her son's name. Then she finds out that this girl who's selling flower calls every man by the name either Freddie or Charlie. And here actually Freddie goes and he gets a cab, but by then the mother and the daughter, they do not want to stay there, so they push up. At that time, elderly gentleman, he comes there, and this flower girl tries to sell her flowers to him. And this gentleman is Colonel Pickering. He actually refuses buying her flowers, but he gives her some money. And when he's giving the money, her friends warn her not to take the money because they have noted a man who's standing behind her taking notes of everything she is saying. And the person who's taking the notes is Professor Henry Higgins, and he is an expert in phonetics, and his hobby is identifying everyone's accent and the place of birth. Like he can tell you where you are born from the way you are speaking. And this Colonel Pickering has also come here to meet him because he is author of a book on Sanskrit, and both of them are interested in phonetics. It is a common interest between both, so they have come. And when they are talking, they are very happy to meet him. When they are talking, Professor Henry Higgins, he boasts saying that he can make this flower girl also to talk like a Duchess in just 3 months of teaching. Then both of them discuss their matters and they push away. And next day what happens is Professor Henry Higgins and Colonel Pickering, they are talking in Professor's house. At that time, Professor Henry Higgins' housekeeper, Mrs. Pierce, she comes and tells him that a lady has come to meet him, and she says that she is a girl who sells flowers in the streets. And then actually first Professor thinks it's nice to have another person so that he can note down the accent, and so he asks Mrs. Pierce to bring the girl inside. But once she comes inside, he recognizes her as the girl whom he saw yesterday, and he says, I have noted down her accent already. But this flower girl says that her name is Eliza Doolittle, and she heard Professor telling to his friend that she can make this girl speak like a duchess in 3 months. And she says that I am not able to get a position in a flower shop because of my speech. So if you could teach me to speak in a refined way, I'll get a job there. And even she offers to give a fees for the teaching. At this time, Colonel Pickering challenges Professor Henry Higgins whether he can make this girl really talk like a duchess. And Professor also accepts the challenge, and he tells Mrs. Pierce to take Elisa inside and to scrub her and to burn her clothes, which are not suitable for a gentle lady. And Mrs. Pierce does same. She takes her inside, and from there they hear a lot of commotion because this is something new to Elisa. Even taking a bath is something new, and Mrs. Pierce had to literally scrub her to remove the dirt from her body. At this time, Mr. Doolittle, that is the father of Eliza, he comes there, and initially his intention is to blackmail Professor Henry Higgins and get some money. But Higgins doesn't bother, like he doesn't respect him, and he gives him back and all that. And finally he comes to the stage of literally asking him for some money because of his poor status. And professor wanting to get rid of him, he gives him some money and he sends him off. And actually he gives him £5 to be clear. And then he starts teaching Eliza not only to speak, but also he teaches her to live like a duchess, and he teaches her how to walk, how to look, how to eat, everything, how to dress up. And Eliza is a very good learner. She learns everything very quickly. And to test how much he has improved in teaching, how very successful he has been, Higgins brings Eliza to his mother's house, because his mother will always every year she will have a receiving day where she'll invite the people who are very close to her for a small party in her house. So he thinks it's the best time to test whether he is successful in training Eliza. So he brings Eliza to that her place. And what happens is, Freddie also comes along with his mother and his sister, but no one is able to recognize Eliza. In fact, on the day when her father comes itself to blackmail the professor, before he could go out, Mrs. Pierce dresses her in a different cloth, and she is combed her hair properly, and her face all is scrubbed and all that. And when she comes out, her own father was not able to recognize Eliza. So naturally it's no wonder that these people are not able to recognize, because they saw her only once, that also in a rainy day in the street. And they are all impressed by the correctness of her speech and how she narrates her aunt's death. But later on, Mrs. Higgins calls Professor Higgins and tells him that Eliza still has to refine herself, and she is not ready to be presented in public. And Professor Higgins, he continues his teaching, and later when he feels that he has completely trained Eliza, he takes her to an ambassador's garden party, and then he introduces her as a grand duchess. And there she is an instant success. Everyone accepts her as duchess. No one even has a slight doubt about her. And that day was a very grand day for everyone, and they return home delighted and extremely proud. And now Colonel Pickering and Professor Henry Higgins, they congratulate themselves, and they appreciate themselves, and they totally ignore Eliza and her contribution to the success. This makes Eliza very angry, and in fact she enters into an agreement with Professor Henry Higgins, and she even goes to the extent of throwing his slipper on him. And now her worry is, since his experiment is over, she wonders whether what she will do here, because his teaching is over, so she is no longer needed here. But at the same time, she's changed so much that she herself doubts whether she will be suitable for her previous life. So she wonders what will happen to her, because she's not the same person what she was earlier. And earlier, though she wanted to work in a flower shop, she was very happy and content, and she was living a safe life. But now she's worried about her financial security, her way of life, and with whom she'll settle in life and all such things. And what happens is, when she is somewhat expresses her ideas to him, Higgins tells her that he has always been reasonable with her, and she is the one who's being unreasonable. And now he tells her, you came here only to join in a flower shop, and now your language is really good, so you will get a position in a flower shop. And he also tells her that she can take all the clothes what she was wearing here, and this angers her more. Then they go back, and next day Professor Henry Higgins finds that Eliza is not at home, and some sort of feeling grips him, and he runs to his mother, and he also informs the police that Eliza is missing. And when he goes to his mother's house, he is surprised that when his mother tells him that Eliza is upstairs. And while he is waiting for Eliza to come down, Eliza's father Doolittle comes there, and he informs Professor Henry Higgins that a wealthy man who was talking with Professor Henry Higgins was told by Henry Higgins that Doolittle is England's most original moralist, and trusting what professor had said, he has left a huge money to him with a trust for Doolittle to lecture on moral reforms. And so now he is a very rich man, and he is forced into middle class morality, and now he has come to invite Elisa for his wedding. And at that time Elisa enters and she listens to her father and she agrees to come to her father's wedding. And then Higgins tells Elisa to return to his house. But Elisa is now determined to have respect and independence, and so she refuses to return. And Higgins now admits that he is missing her, and he also admires her newfound independence. And he tells her to come back so that the three of them, that is Professor Henry Higgins, Colonel Pickering, and Elisa, can live with equal respect as three bachelors. But Elisa's ideas are different, and she says that she will either marry Freddie, who is interested in marrying her now and who adores her a lot and who respects her, and she knows that he cannot be financially independent, but she says that she can teach phonetics because now she is very good in speaking, and she can become financially independent, and she will be happy if she marries Freddie because he loves her a lot and he respects her a lot. And but Professor Higgins feels that he cannot accept this idea of her marrying Freddie because he is not a suitable person for her. But the both of them argue. At that time Mrs. Higgins enters and she informs Elisa that the carriage is waiting for her. And Higgins decides to stay back, and Elisa says goodbye to Higgins and says that they will never meet each other again. Higgins ignores that and gives Elisa some errands to do on the way back home. Elisa disdainfully learns that he will never change and tells him to do it himself. Mrs. Higgins tells him that he has spoiled the girl and she offers to do his errands. But Higgins is confident that Elisa will come back. The play ends here, and the audience are left to their own idea whether Elisa is going to come back and whether Henry will propose to her and they'll get married, or whether they'll be like this, or whether Elisa is going to marry Freddie, or whether Elisa is going to choose some other profession on her own. So the play has leaves the choice to the audience to decide. And in fact there are two film versions on this. One is Pygmalion, and in that the dialogues were written, screenplay was written by Bernard Shaw himself, and later on another version of this, My Fair Lady, also came, which was also made into a film, and both the movies were a success. And in My Fair Lady they show it as a romantic play where they literally fall in love with each other, but in the original version Bernard Shaw has not shown any love interest. It only shows how a woman wants to be respected and how much she wants to be independent. I hope you like the story. And if you have anything to add on, please do write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends. And if you have not subscribed my channel, don't forget to subscribe. And while you're subscribing, please press the bell button. Only then you will get the notification of all my other videos. Thank you.